And you are looking live at Latrobe, Pennsylvania, the Lutheran seminary. I forget which St. Lutheran seminary in Latrobe where the Steelers practice. Hello, Matt.
Mike, great to be with you here from Steelers training camp at St. Vincent's, the campus of the St. Vincent Seminary. The beautiful backdrop behind us here, one of the few destination training camps remaining across the NFL, not just because they go away, but because of the real reputation that Steelers camp has for being extra physical. Today wasn't any different. Driving out, I was a little bit worried, Mike, that, they have their preseason opener the day after tomorrow in Jacksonville, that this would be a walkthrough and you'll hold up the cards and you're doing game plan prep. No. Steelers wearing pads today.
Very cool. And I'll start right away. I saw you giving some play-by-play of Aaron Rodgers trying to throw some deep passes to Robert Woods, etc. What are your impressions? How does the old man look?
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers, it seems like he's already having an impact on the offense, really crisp in like the short passing game down near the goal line. They didn't practice DK Metcalf today. Wanted to get a look at some of the younger wide receivers going into the game, but nobody's benefiting more than Roman Wilson, Scotty Miller, and Brandon Johnson had a really nice practice today. Goal line period. Play of the day. They're running a scramble drill. Rodgers rolls to his right, buys a little time outside the pocket, and Johnson sits down in the back of the end zone to pull down the touchdown catch. But I will say, Mike, and I wrote this in the postcard that's going to be hitting people probably in the next half hour or so once that goes live. It seems like the Steelers are still trying to figure out the vertical passing game. The timing just doesn't seem there in the deep passing game from Aaron Rodgers to these receivers. Now, obviously, again, I didn't see DK Metcalf. He's been drawing rave reviews throughout camp for the deep ball connection with Rodgers. But there was a play in particular down the sideline late in practice where it was a 9 route. I believe it was Robert Woods on a deep ball. Rodgers overthrew him by about half a yard. He tried to make a diving catch, couldn't come up with it. The very next snap, the very same route, the very same play, Mason Rudolph hits him for a diving catch for a big gain. So it's just interesting to see how far away the Steelers seem in the vertical passing game right now. 13 practices into camp.
I haven't been out there as a Latrobe since 2019, but when I hear Aaron Rodgers throwing to Robert Woods, I think it is 2019. I think we've hit on that there. There's some drama out there apparently with the defensive lineman. Is that correct?
Yeah. I seem to be, you called me the highwayman the other day on the podcast. I seem to be the news bug that's biting these teams when I roll into town. Saturday, you had Terry McLaurin 24 hours earlier requesting a trade. Today, about an hour before practice, Adam Schefter reports that Cam Heyward is staging a hold-in. Now, talking to several beat writers on the sideline this afternoon, Heyward hasn't been participating in full team drills, but he's been out there every day during individuals. He's been going through some of the indie work, just not participating in 11-on-11s. Turns out he's holding in. And I reached out to a couple of agents while I was on the sideline. One of them happens to represent a handful of prominent defensive players around the league. He told me, quote, 36 or not, he still has elite production after 8 sacks last season. He's a Ring of Honor caliber player and a great leader in that locker room. You have to pay him, unquote. So it's interesting. You look at the numbers, and among defensive linemen, Cam Heyward is the 22nd highest paid defensive lineman in the sport. Despite those numbers, despite his standing in the Steelers organization, they just reworked his deal a year ago, 2 years, $30 million, no guaranteed money after this year. So, Mike, it sounds like, I don't know if he's trying to move some guaranteed money into this season or trying to get some long-term security to play for not 1, not 2, but 3 more years. Just interesting to keep an eye on. What's your read on this thing? What do you think the happy medium is for Steelers and Heyward?
I think, if I'm thinking in terms of the team, and I always think in terms of the team and stuff like that, it's like, yes, maybe we guarantee you the money this year. You are 36. You're asking us to do a renegotiation after doing a reworking last year. I think the Steelers are thinking in terms of being 1 year early, getting rid of a guy at that age instead of 1 year late, and that's the impasse. It is funny, though, because it sounds like as a 30-something-year-old defensive tackle, when he's not out there during regular 11 on 11s, anyone watching assumes, well, you're not going to play your 30-something defensive tackle 11 on 11s. He needed Schefter to make it clear that this is a hold-in, that it's not just, well, the old guy doesn't play, especially in Pittsburgh, because Tomlin will take care of the veterans pretty he's pretty soft is not the right word. He's pretty generous with time off for the veterans. So I guess this was a clarification situation. You get a better sense of the vibe. Is this going to carry in? It seems unlikely this will carry into the season.
Yeah, it seems like one of these situations where you think back that, a year ago, Pat Freiermuth signed his deal. I think it was 2 or 3 days before the regular season
Mm-hmm.
kicked off. They signed him to his extension. And you're right, Tomlin is generous with the days off. We saw with DK Metcalf today.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting. Heyward declined to talk to the media, so you don't really have a sense of where his head is at with all of this. But people were the buzz was that if it wasn't for this report, nobody would have known that he was holding in.
Right.
It's fascinating there. I will say, Mike, that this is still a physical training camp, Cam Heyward or not. And I went into this practice with the expectation that Jalen Warren was going to be the lead dog in that backfield. Najee Harris signed elsewhere. That's just not the case.
Okay.
If you're looking for a takeaway from what I saw in practice, I think the biggest one is the running back competition is really heating up because Warren is still getting a handful of the first team reps, but rookie Caleb Johnson really flashing as a receiver out of the backfield. And midway through the practice, there was a running play where he burst through the line of scrimmage and lowered his shoulder and just blew up a safety. Talked to him afterwards for 4 downs on Monday. That's the kind of physicality he hopes to bring to Flash to the coaching staff as he tries to win a roster spot and climb the depth chart. And former Eagle, Kenneth Gainwell, making
Okay.
plays out here with the second team offense. So it seems like the Steelers have an open competition for running back. It might even become a running back by committee approach once again.
I wouldn't doubt that because Warren was always the committee guy. In fact, he was usually the 1B in the committee. Kyle Johnson, that physicality was always visible when he was in college. It was the aptitude in the passing game that I think was a question. The bottom line with that is Gainwell's also pretty good in the passing game. There's one person you have to impress if you want to be out there on third and long. That's Aaron Rodgers, not Arthur Smith. Arthur Smith will put like Jonnu out there as a running back or something. By the way, did you see? Were there like 3 tight end sets? I've been hearing stories. We talked to Jarrett Bailey a lot. 3 and 4 tight end sets. Did you see this crazy stuff with Jonnu and Freiermuth and that big dude from Georgia and the other dude all out there at the same time?
Yeah, I didn't take notice of the 3 tight end sets, but they did work at least 2 on the field at once. And it's really seemed like throughout the practice, it wasn't just the Pat Freiermuth show, as you might have expected, given that he's the highest paid on the roster. But Rodgers really seemed to be building a connection. Let me try to pull up the roster here with Connor Heyward. Heyward getting some reps when Aaron Rodgers is on the field. At one point, it seemed like even after a series, pulled him aside and was just chatting with him for 3 or 4 minutes. Young tight end, Connor Heyward.
His Hayward's brother.
Yes.
Yeah. So maybe if you pair,
4-year vet.
yeah, he's been there a while, and like a lot of times you thought, we just keep him. I mean, he's a decent ball player, but to keep your number 3 tight end, maybe you're keeping his brother happy. Maybe pay him. Maybe there's your solution.
Yeah, that'll work out well around the Thanksgiving table, kind of like in the Watt household.
Yes.
And I will say, after practice, I did almost get run over by Darnell Washington,
Oh God.
6'7", 265 pounds. It would have been a low-speed fender bender, but I was trying to keep an eye on a player that I wanted to speak to after practice, and almost got shouldered on the walk by. But I can confirm the dude's built like a house.
He is the hardest person to miss in the world because he is bigger than even when you describe his measurements and fans are like, well, there's 320-pound guys in the NFL. No, he's somehow bigger. He's just somehow bigger than everybody. But I'm glad you're okay in that respect. So what's coming up? What's coming up for you is a drive home, right?
Yeah, drive home. Stay tuned between the hash marks. There will be the postcard from training camp that should go live sometime in the next 45 minutes or so. Just have to finish writing that. We're going to stop for a quick craft beer and a quesadilla or a jumbo pretzel, some good old-fashioned junk food before hitting the road. Might even stop at that Sheets for a nitro cold brew. Wawa, step up the game on the coffee. The pour your own nitro cold brew tap was so clutch on the way out here, I might hit it on the way home.
I'm telling you, skip the micro, bro. Go to Park and Eat. Go to Park and Eat. Get yourself a slice of pie, and then you'll be nice and sugared up for getting all the way down to get back on the turnpike, because that alone is a little adventure on your way back home.
And I am excited when I do get home before I, hit the head on the pillow. I am going to check out the Dark Side of the Moon Miami Dolphins feature that landed today on Two Deep Zone. The headline alone is fascinating.
I have two Dolphins things because the defector, I've got a Dolphins thing. So it's all Dolphins all the time around here. By the way, if you're the news bringer, you don't go to Chargers camp because they got Rashawn Slater got hurt all by without your help. I don't know if you saw this news, but
I did.
Slater, that seems like a pretty significant injury. We can talk about that obviously when you're back at the command center, though.
Absolutely. So, Mike, this has been a lot of fun. Signing off here from Latrobe and Pittsburgh Steelers training camp. It's a physical camp as it always is. The Aaron Rodgers show in full effect. We'll see what happens with Cam Heyward, and we'll see what happens with the Steelers passing game. Thanks for checking in. Follow Mike Tanier on Blue Sky. Subscribe to the Two Deep Zone. You can check me out on Blue Sky and on Threads at Matt Lombardo NFL. And we'll talk to you Tuesday on the pod.
Peace out, man.